is asked the following question: what happens to us after we die? Well, that can be answered in many ways. Religious people will give the answer: God takes us to a better place where we no longer have to suffer. Non-believers will say, we were buried in the ground and that's the end of that. People who believe in life after death say that troubled souls stay around until their life has been fulfilled. 48% of people believe that ghosts exist, and 78% of people in America believe in the afterlife. Dr. Marjorie Kerr, a scare specialist or sociologist a professor at Robert Morris University and Chatham University, describes the fight or flight reaction that you have when you're scared. There's a hormone that your brain releases called dopamine, and it determines whether you like fear or you don't like fear, which results in the people that will discover paranormal things and go into the research about paranormal because they enjoy the dopamine that their brain releases. We could sit here and tell you stories that people have told you about their ghost experiences, but that might not sway your mind on the idea that life after death exists. What does exist is the cold hard facts and evidence. Books and television shows have been created just for these reasons, not only to entertain, but to show that ghosts and other paranormal entities exist. Shows such as Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, Paranormal State, The Haunted, A Haunting, and Paranormal Witness were all created to show that hauntings happen in many people's lives.
Ghosts exist on Earth and between our dimension and the next. To understand what this means, you can think of a radio station that is full of static because it's not coming through correctly. This is how a ghost exists between the world we know and the one we don't. Ghosts are entities that exist and have not quite crossed over into the spirit world, and they exist on Earth for many reasons. Ghosts can exist as both harmful and harmless, depending on how they died and what the spirit was like while they were alive. Those who were not the kindest souls and died harmful deaths inhabit the most haunted locations. These spirits feed off of people's fears and haunt the lives of those living around them. There are 2,000 attractions in America that are haunted. One of the most famous and closest to us is the Penhurst Asylum, which used to be known as the Eastern Pennsylvania Institution for the Feeble-Minded and Epileptic. It was a mental institution which was closed back in the 1980s, and it used to hold insane people, but it was closed due to its poor conditions. And today it's used as a haunted attraction where people will jump out and scare you, which triggers your flight or fight instincts, and it's very tempting to teens these days because of the scariness. Ghosts can cause hauntings both through objects and through people, and one of the most recent in media today is the story of Annabelle, which is a Raggedy Ann doll, which was an inhuman spirit that inhabited the doll called a conduit, and it inhabited this doll to try and possess a person, which is what most demons do when they take over inside an inanimate object. When a haunting occurs in a single person, it's called a poltergeist. This can be threatening to people since they will not know who it is or what it is that is haunting them, and it becomes very hard to help a person being haunted because they go into a depression. Poltergeists usually center around teenagers, especially girls who are going through emotional stages of distress. These people that are the center of the haunting are called the epicenter. The poltergeist haunting can be very threatening to families because they can easily be torn apart. Some hauntings are the result of demons and non-human entities. In these situations, people can be physically and emotionally harmed. When a ghost conjures up enough energy, whether it be through someone's fears or through objects, they can throw the objects and even scratch people. Some people have reported a burning sensation on their backs when they sleep and have found 3 scratch marks on their backs when they awaken. With most of the ghosts and hauntings, scratches and knocks tend to come in threes as a result, as an insult to the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Electronic voice phenomenons, or EVPs, are sounds and voices found on electronic recordings thought to be spirits. EVPs tend to be found after questions have been asked, but they are not always clear. When the EVPs are clear, the messages can be as simple as telling people their name, but they can also be threats from the spirits. Growls and footsteps can also be heard in EVPs. People will use voice boxes when they are asking spirits questions. This box allows the spirit to actually communicate with them, and their words can be heard but not always understood. Mediums are also people who claim to have a sixth sense. They claim to have the ability to communicate with spirits. Mediums became popular in the 19th century, and while many people believe mediums to be frauds, Others find that these people have an extraordinary gift. Mediumship is associated with religious beliefs, and mediums use the term clairvoyance to describe their visions with seeing spirits. A famous medium is Teresa Caputo, and she has her own TV show where she uses her medium abilities to help people connect with their loved ones who have passed away. It is also said that animals can sense the presence of spirits through their sixth sense, just like mediums. This explains the strange actions of pets when they enter a house or building that seems to have the presence of something otherworldly. It has been documented that dogs can interact with supernatural beings or something unseen, and they usually bark or stare at something that is not there. And also cats have the reputation of being superstitious with black cats, and the hairs on the back of their neck and back will stand up when something happens.
Another way for people to communicate with spirits is through spirit boards called Ouija boards. Ouija boards are used by people all over the world to communicate with the dead. The piece is placed on the board, and every player must put their hands on the piece in order for the spirits to use their energy to communicate. Ouija boards are gateways for spirits to enter our world, and it's usually an evil entity trying to manipulate you into thinking that they are something other than what they actually are. The gateways that most people think of are mirrors, which is why some superstitions, such as the Bloody Mary, where you stand in the bathroom and turn the lights off, scares many people, so they tend not to use Ouija boards and mirrors.
Magnetic fields can also be stronger in places that are haunted. Some paranormal investigators see the higher magnetic field reading as proof of existence of ghosts. Cold sensations are also sensed when a spirit is in the area. The high magnetic field can be sensed when there is a sudden drop in temperature.
Bless you. Ghosts have been caught on camera even though they cannot be seen by the naked eye at all times. Orbs can also be seen. Orbs are found in pictures, and they are caught on camera when spirits do not have enough energy to appear as in their natural form. In 1996, Ike Clanton thought it would be a cool idea to dress up as a cowboy with his friend and take a picture. After taking the picture and looking back at it, he found that there was a man sitting in the background of the field. When he went back with his friend to take the picture again to try and repeat what had happened, they could not repeat the picture because the man in the background had no legs. In 1954, Reverend K.F. Ford was taking pictures in the church that is located in England. While taking these pictures, he found that there was a monk with a ghastly face. The photo was looked at, and it was determined that there was neither a double exposure nor the negative had been tampered with, and since Photoshop had not been invented then, there was no way to determine that this was forged.
Also, me and Eileen have a friend who has experienced many supernatural things at her house. We connected with a Ouija board to a young girl named Lila, and she was about 4 or 5, she said, and we got that she was killed by her school teacher, and so we decided to use the Ouija board to communicate a lot of times with her.
One year on her birthday, we were sitting in her living room using the Ouija board, and we were asking it many questions. There was a balloon sitting on the couch, and we asked her if she would move it, and when she said yes, we asked who she would move it towards, and she spelled out my name, so I got a little freaked out, and I put some pillows on top of the balloon so it wouldn't move. Her brother tried to come behind me and move it, but we told him to sit in front of us so that he wouldn't, and after that, we asked it a few more questions, and out of curiosity, I looked over to see if the balloon was still there, and it was sitting behind me. So we went upstairs. Her mom had gone to the grocery store, and her dad had left for work. Her brother was downstairs watching TV, and I was sitting on the edge of her bed while someone was telling a story. I happened to glance out the door, and I saw little feet walking up the stairs and turned to the right towards her brother's room. So I got really freaked out, told everybody what I just saw. They didn't believe me. They were like, no, nothing could be there. And a spiky blue ball flew across the hallway, smacked the door, and then dropped to the ground and rolled and stopped at the top of the stairs. We started screaming, and we were like, Joey, did you throw that ball? And he said, no, I'm watching Victorious. I didn't do anything. And when we looked around the house, nobody was upstairs.
Similar to Eileen's experience, Leah also had her own, and she was sitting in her parents' bedroom watching TV, and turned to go leave the room and saw her ghost was standing there, and described it to us as a young girl about 4 or 5 who had blonde hair, a bow in her hair, and was carrying a teddy bear, and was very, very scared after that. So we decided to use the Ouija board again, and we went in the basement to go test it out with an unbiased opinion. So we turned the lights off, and we had a glow-in-the-dark piece to move so we could see what it was spelling out. So she took paint tubes and placed her finger on one of the colors and put it behind her back, but neither of us knew what color she put her hand on. So we saw, and it spelled out red, and so she had taken the tube out from behind her back. We turned the lights on, and her finger was on the red tube, and it was really, really freaky.
Paranormal research is definitely not a dying field these days because it touches people's lives every day. Unexplainable events are truly the most terrifying because we rely so heavily on science these days, and there is no science behind these occurrences.